And here we are in the final chapter of Dark Water Rising. In chapter 28, they celebrated New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and it forced everyone to think about the past year, all the death and all the people they've lost. And for Seth, he needed to go back to the beach and let all those memories go. He had to do that all on his own, and here's hoping it will help him. Chapter 29, this is a chapter where he needs to tell his dad, I'm not going to college. And let's see how it goes. I woke New Year's Day from another dream about Zach. I'd had several dreams of him since the first, and he never spoke in any of them. We simply worked together, shoulder to shoulder. Somehow, these quiet dreams of Zach had helped me get to the heart of who I was. They'd helped me carve away what I no longer needed, sand the rough parts clean and smooth. Now all I thought about was how much I wanted Papa to see what I'd become. On this particular morning, I lay in bed, trying to look at Papa the way Zach might have, trying to choose the words he would have chosen. In the end, it was me who rose from the bed. It was me who asked to speak to Papa in Uncle Nate's study. A special dinner was in the works for this first day of the year, and the whole house bustled with activity. Aunt Julia had sent Ezra for extra ice, and Mama's baking filled the house with the warm aroma of apples and cinnamon. I just hoped that what I had to tell Papa wouldn't ruin our fine dinner. It was a strange feeling following Papa into the parlor, into the study. I watched him sit in Uncle Nate's chair and seemed to watch myself be seated as well, as if a part of me hung back near the doorway, unwilling to enter. I'm not sure what was said at that point. Polite wishes from Papa for a happier new year, I think. But I do remember that shortly after I emptied my heart and my words hung in the air between us. There will be no college for me, Papa, I told him. I am a carpenter, and I can be nothing else. He stared at me, and I watched for the hard, whittled look that always came when he was displeased, the look that would tell me everything. But it didn't come. Instead, he rose from his seat and called for Aunt Julia. When she arrived, he whispered something to her, then closed the door and walked slowly to the window. Uncle Nate's clock ticked on the desk. A north wind whipped bare branches against the glass, and all my old fears and resentments, all that I thought I'd conquered, rushed toward me like a runaway train. As usual, I couldn't tell at all what Papa was thinking. He hadn't shouted, hadn't insisted. He hadn't even asked me to leave. He'd only turned his back on me and left me waiting, tangled in the web of his silence. Doesn't look good right now. A light rapping turned him around, and he crossed the room to answer it. He pulled the door wide, and in tramped every soul in the house, Ezra and Josiah too. Surprise jerked me to my feet. I watched, confused, while Aunt Julia and Ella Rose carried a large cloth-draped rectangle into the room. What could be underneath that? As soon as they'd all taken places around Uncle Nate's desk and turned to face me, Papa cleared his throat. He spoke slowly at first, deliberately and without a smile. We'd planned to give you this after graduation, but, as your mother continually reminds me, the good Lord has a reason for everything. His eyes twinkled, and to my surprise, his mouth stretched into a sudden, wide grin. And even a fool can tell what that is if he'll just listen. He laughed and pulled away the cloth. I sucked in a breath and tossed a shocked look at Ella Rose and Aunt Julia. It was their bold and feathered script that graced the shiny black and white sign. Braden and Son, building contractors. Braden is their last name, so Papa Braden and Son. I blinked at the words. I hadn't once thought. I hadn't once dared. Kate and Elliot clapped like they'd just seen another fireworks display, and Aunt Julia's and Ella Rose's eyes glistened with tears. I turned to Mama. Her cheeks were wet too, and I finally realized what she must have known all along. Papa had already planned this day when he chose to work on that rail bridge. He'd done it for me, and all this time, Mama had never said a word. She just stood back and let me learn how to walk in Papa's shoes. I looked at Matt and Lucas, Andy and Will, Ezra and Josiah, and every one of them grinned so wide, all I could see was teeth. But it was Papa's smile that made my heart leap. I glanced at him, still full of questions, and saw nothing but answers in his face.